Hello and welcome to part 14 of this Dark Souls guide and playthrough. Got quite a number of things to do today. First thing we're going to do is take on a boss. We just took one on a second in the last episode, but there's one down here that we can take care of quickly. There's the fog gate. Just do what I did there, make your way down. If you look down there to the right, you'll actually see like a lobster looking creature clinging onto the wall. So we might encounter that at some point in the future. You can see this area is engulfed and surrounded by lava. It's a very interesting area. It's known as Demon Ruins, and it's populated by demons, believe it or not. And I think I mentioned in the last episode that the demons, according to Dark Souls lore, the demons were created when the Witch of Ceaseless, who was mentioned in the opening cinematic, she tried to clone or copy the first flame using the Chaos Flame, I believe, and they spawned demons, and also in the process disfigured and destroyed her children. So we met one of her children. That was Quailag, the Chaos Witch Spider. This is another one of her children. This is Ceaseless Discharge, as he's known, although I'm sure that's not his original name. It's probably something like John. But this is him. You can see his miserable looking face and all his tentacles. These tentacles obviously were a result of his mother's attempt to clone the first flame. You can see him, he looks very sad. He's basically one of the Witch of Ceaseless' daughters died during the process, and he guards over her robes and her body. Her body's actually sitting there, as you can see. As soon as you pick up the item there, he will aggro. So we'll do that. So don't run forward, wait until he pulls his arm out. There you go, he pulls his arm out of its socket. Wait until he's done that, because if you're too close it'll actually cause you damage. And then what you want to do is, you can either take this boss on in a physical fight, or you can do it the cheat way, and honestly I prefer just to do it the cheat way. It's not a fight I particularly enjoy. Come down this wee shortcut, we passed it on the way into the boss room. Run back to the fog gate. That's your only goal as soon as you pick the robes up. Wait for a second until he pulls his arm out of the socket and run back immediately to the fog gate. And you'll see how the fight progresses. Some people claim that this is an unfair way of concluding the fight, but if From Software didn't intend for it to occur, they wouldn't have included it. Basically, he follows you to the fog gate. You can see he puts his big arm down on the ground, and what you do is you smash into it, and it causes him to lose his grip and fall into the field of lava below him. There you go. Loses his grip, falls down into the lava and is destroyed. If you want to fight him, go ahead. This just shows you what happens after he dies. The lava cools and the level drops, exposing new areas of the Demon Ruins. But yeah, you can take him on in a fight. It's not a particularly exciting fight. You have to just keep rolling out the way of his arm coming down, and then you just hit into it. He's not weak, or he's not easy. I mean, not easy is the wrong word. It's not necessarily a challenging fight. It's quite a... There you go, if you look down there you can see about 8 Taurus demons. So the lava level has dropped and it's exposed to all those demons. I don't know if they were there before, but they're there now. So maybe we'll come back to them at some point. We're actually going to head back now to Firelink Shrine. We'll go and rest at the bonfire first. I would suggest, if you've followed this guide, and you're not long after killing Quailag, the Chaos Witch Spider that we fought in the last episode, I would suggest coming to do this now rather than later. As you can see, it's an easy fight. It's an easy fight regardless of how you do it. So now that you've got some more souls to play with, you can upgrade your character. I've said it before, our character, we're wanting to upgrade vitality, endurance, strength or dexterity, and if you're going for a quality build, strength and dexterity. never upgrade resistance, we mentioned that before. And intelligence and faith are not something I'm interested in, because I'm not interested in sorceries or anything like that in this playthrough. Well, not particularly interested in them. We might dabble with power within later on. So come back up here. What we're going to do is we're going to pay a visit. We're actually going to, it's a murder tour of the Witch of Ceaseless family. We've killed the Quelaag and Ceaseless, so brother and sister. And My Fair Lady, like I said before, the Fair Lady is the sister of Ceaseless and of Quelaag. And we're actually going to kill her as well. And the reason why you want to kill her is because she holds a Firekeeper soul. Most important of all, before you kill her, rest at the bonfire. I failed to do that, and it causes me a bit of a headache later on in the game. So make sure you sit at the bonfire, rest at it. Don't just tag it, rest at it. I'm just wanting to show you the difference that the golden hem robes, the ones we picked up from Ceaseless Discharge, the one that belonged to his sister, they're some of the best light armour in the game. They're not particularly great at defending physical attacks, but they've got brilliant, as you can see, poison resistance and flame defence. They're particularly good in the swamp. I definitely recommend, if you're going through the swamp, using and plus you look like the Grim Reaper. And given what we've just done, we've just destroyed a brother and sister, and we're about to destroy a second sister. I think it's fitting with the way we're behaving just now. Some members of the Dark Souls community frown upon this action. They think it's particularly nasty and unfair.
You monster! What have you done? What have you done?
So he's particularly upset with you. Remember, he's basically our servant. Killing him spawns maggots, and these maggots are the ones that cause the egghead status. I remember I mentioned them when we were in Darkroot Basin. You pick up the egg vermifuge to counter that status. Just avoid them and just take them all out. I do feel bad taking out the Fair Lady, but I need the Firekeeper soul. And if you do get egg-headed, then we've got the egg vermifuge. One problem is, if you kill the Firekeeper, you can't sit at the bonfire. So just bear that in mind, but I'd strongly recommend that you do it. Fast forward here. We're going to leave the swamp and go back up to Firelink Shrine. We've done everything we need to do down here for the time being. No point in me wearing these gold hem robes as well. I think I'll just change back into what I had been wearing before, which was I'm going to go for the thief mask, or thief wrap, black leather armour, and the other pieces. You can take off the ring at this point as well. You don't need the rusted iron ring because we're out the swamp. I know I've got the gargoyle hem on just now, but I'm going to change that in a second. What else to say? Ceaseless Discharge, yep, interesting boss, not difficult really. Apparently he owned, his sisters gave him the orange charred ring, which allows you to walk in lava. That's an item that we'll pick up maybe later in the game. He lost it, I believe. Don't know how, but he did. So just make your way up here. You've been up this way before, you've seen in the previous episode that we came up here. This is where we picked up one of the Firekeeper souls, and we encountered all those blow dart snipers guys. I want to apologise as well. In the last video when we were in the Great Hollow, I suggested that divine weapons do extra damage against deities and their servants, like the Black Knights and whatnot. It's not divine weapons, it's occult weapons that do extra damage against all the deities in this game. It's all the gods in this game and their servants, like the Black Knights and the Royal Sentinels and whatnot. So if you're wanting to upgrade weapons specifically for those guys, you want to have the occult ember, and that's something we'll pick up later on in the game. It's been hidden away in the game world. by the gods themselves. They don't want MD getting access to it, so we have to go and venture for it. That's one thing I noticed in my notes here that I didn't mention. There's a consequence for, apart from the fact the bonfire not being available, the other consequence of taking the Fair Lady out is that if you want to join her covenant, you can give her humanity. I've mentioned that in the previous episode as well. Feed her humanity and you'll get a shortcut between the Demon Ruins and Lost Isleth. Honestly, it's not worth it. I wouldn't recommend it whatsoever. You're better off just going the normal route through from Demon Ruins to Lost Isleth. Nice parry and riposte there. These guys are easy peasy, mentioned that before. But they do have the ability to clobber you over the head. You're about to see that, I think, in a minute. It's good to have the bow here because in this corridor, this is actually the way to Firelink Shrine, so make sure you come this way. It's good to have a bow because there's two guys up there, two infested barbarians, and you can pull them down here. You can pull one at a time down. So we've talked before as well in previous episodes about how it's good that, you know, all the areas in Dark Souls are more or less linked. And this, where we're going to now, basically links up quite a few areas. It's called the Valley of the Drakes, the area we're going to now. And it's basically like a corridor that acts as a kind of sunken passage between Firelink Shrine, the Swamp, Blighttown, Anor Londo, and Darkroot Basin. And you'll remember we were in Darkroot Basin before when we went for the Grasscrest Shield and we took on the Black Knight. We also went there when we were taking on Havel. He was locked in the turret at the bottom. There's a few things we've still to do in that area, Darkroot Basin, so we're going back there. We're kind of finished with Darkroot Garden, but the basin's somewhere we'll go back to at some point. So when we come out here, if you've got the Master Key, you could actually come down to this area, the Valley of the Drakes, from the beginning of the game. And some new players do that because there's some items down here that are useful for new players. There's a sword called the Stora Straight Sword, and there's also the Dragon Crest Shield, which has got great fire defense. Come round here and open this door. This is the door I'm talking about. If you don't have the Master Key, you can use the key to the Anor Londo ruins, which you pick up as you come up the ladders just before you fight the infested barbarians. Remember we picked that up in the previous episode. Anyway, come down this way. I want to go and pick up... I just want to show you this area basically. I want to show you where to pick this sword up. I wouldn't really recommend it unless you're a faith cleric kind of build. A Stora Straight Sword is kind of powerful for new players. First of all, I'm going to talk about this ramp. This guy looks like he's dead or asleep, but he's just resting. As soon as we pick up these next items, these two items, he will wake up. And as you can see, he just absolutely smashed me. I wanted to get away from it at this point because I didn't want to have to spawn all the way back in the Demon Ruins. So the other item is the Dragon Crest Shield. If you're wanting a shield, it's worth it. It's worth going back or it's worth picking that item up first. If you've only to pick one item up there, pick up the Dragon Crest Shield and not a Stora Straight Sword. A Stora Straight Sword can be useful for new players. It's like the equivalent of the Drake sword, but for kind of faith-based characters. And it's useful in the catacombs as well because it acts as a kind of divine weapon and it takes out these skeletons.
What weapons have you brought? Go on, show me.
So speak to Rickard. There's nothing for us to do. We're not interested in magic or anything, but I just thought I would come down and speak to him. As you can see, it's green shards that upgrade these magic weapons. But yeah, going back to the Stora Straight Sword, you're better off with from reading on forums and whatnot, I believe most experienced players suggest that the Divine Longsword is a better weapon.
What is it? There's nothing to talk about. We're both cursed.
The problem with a Stora's sword is that it's got weak base damage and it scales, it's got C scaling, so not the high scaling, in 3 categories: strength, dexterity and faith. Yeah. The Dragon Crest shield gives you 85% defense against fire, so that's really useful throughout the whole game, not just at the beginning. The Undead Dragon, if you want to fight him, he's been afflicted by Nito's plague. Like in the minute at the beginning, you see Nito unleashing a plague, a miasma and a plague all over the earth, or all over Lordran. Anyway, he's got a lot of health. A dragon scale drops that. He's weak to fire, and he spews out a toxic mist. That's what I've written down. So the Firekeeper's gone. Not just gone, she's dead. And who was sitting in front of her before? Lautrec, the Condemned, Lautrec of Karim, Lautrec the Guilty, whatever you want to call him. So it's likely that he killed her, and remember he told us when we released him from the cell that he had business to attend to. So it seems like that business was murder. The problem is that with the Firekeeper gone, the bonfire in Firelink Shrine is now unavailable. You see that we picked up an item, apart from the Firekeeper set. Sorry, I'll let him speak.
Bell? That is incredible, I must say. But now we have a new problem. It's noisy, it snores, and its breath is lethal. This is no laughing matter, I tell you.
So there's our act of ringing the second bell has caused something to happen in Firelink Shrine, something that's made him unhappy. But yeah, the Firekeeper, her set, we'll be using that at some point.
Hello. Was it you who rang the bell of awakening? I am the primordial serpent, King Seeker Frampt, close friend of the great Lord Gwyn, chosen undead, who has rung the bell of awakening. I wish to elucidate your fate. Do you seek such enlightenment?
We do. Say yes.
Very well. Then I am pleased to share. Chosen undead, your fate is to succeed the great Lord Gwyn, so that you may link the fire, cast away the dark, and undo the curse of the undead. To this end, you must visit Anor Londo and acquire the Lord Vessel.
So that's interesting. He's given us the next direction to go to in the game.
I am pleased to see you well. Is it something urgent?
Yep, so you can feed, this is King Seeker Frampt. First of all, I want to say he was keen to impress upon us and praise our endeavours so far and whatnot. He seems to have his own agenda, and I wouldn't particularly trust this guy, but he is useful. He gives us access to another area in the game, but we'll come back to that later. And also you can feed him items, and I would advise you that you give him your least worthy souls, because they're worth only something like 100 or 200 souls. But if you feed them to him, you get 500 a pop. So that obviously makes sense. You can just exchange. You can feed him swords and whatnot, and shields and armor sets that you're not interested in. You can also exchange unwanted upgrade items for useful upgrade items. So you can feed him, for example, a green shard. In return, you get 1 green shard equals 5 normal Titanite shards. So he's very useful for that purpose as well.
Farewell, chosen undead.
So he's basically kind of shaping our story here. He's given us direction and purpose. He suggested that we go to Anor Londo and pick up the Lord Vessel, so maybe we'll do that. First of all, though, we're going to need to go to Sen's Fortress, and that's what the next episode's going to be about. Let's talk to Petrus.
Ah, oh, you. Have you seen Milady? Oh, blast, where might she be? And would she be safe? Oh,
A lot of shady characters around here. Petrus is not to be trusted. Anyway, I hope this episode was useful.